Our world is consumed with the concept of luck, chance happenings that just kind of take place. People will regularly say, boy, you sure are lucky. Or the opposite, something is bad luck. But the book of Esther says that there is no such thing as luck. There is providence. God causing or allowing things and events to work toward his purposes. Esther has been promoted to be queen. Mordecai has told her that Haman wants to kill all of the Jews. And it's now time for you to go to your husband, King Ahasuerus, and tell him Haman's plot against the Jews. Esther has said, I can't do that. It's too risky. I love y'all, but not that much. Because to go before him when he has not requested me could cost me my life. Mordecai has said to her, don't you know that you are called to the kingdom for such a time as this? That you were only put up here in this royal position because God knew this moment, your moment would be now. Don't miss your moment, girl. This is your moment to be a tool of God to deliver God's people. When she hears that message from Mordecai, she says, okay, I want all of y'all to go on a 3-day fast. I need y'all on your knees for this one because this is a big one. You're asking me to risk it all, and I'm going to go do it, and if I perish, I perish. If I die, I die, because you're right. This is bigger than just me. Chapter 5 opens up on the third day, because it was a 3-day fast. Esther puts on a royal robe. She goes to the inner court of the king. The king is sitting on his throne. When the king sees her in verse 2, he extends the scepter, which means it's okay for her to come in and talk to him. She comes near, touches the top of the scepter out of respect, and then the king says to her, what is troubling you, verse 3, Queen Esther? And what is your request? Even to half of the kingdom it will be given you. Just tell me what you want. Esther says in verse 4, if it pleases the king, may the king and Haman, who is out to kill the Jews, come this day to the banquet that I have prepared for him. I'm going to tell you around dinner. I'm going to fix your favorite food. We're going to lay it out, and I want you to bring Haman, and I'm going to tell you then what's going on around dinner. You will never get to see God's providence at work in your circumstances until and unless God sees you move in accordance with his will. The reason she prays first is because she needs to know how to approach this dangerous situation. She needs some divine insight in a difficult problem. So she goes to God in fasting. And this was a life and death issue. So she needed her antenna raised to hear what God had to say about this situation. The second thing he needs you to do is take a step of faith. But she couldn't just say, I'm a fast, I'm a pray, and I'm going to wait on God. No, she was instructed to go before the king. She had to take a step of faith. So she trusts God. She believes God. She prays to God. And then she makes a risky step because there are no guarantees in advance. What does she get in return? Well, so far, what she gets is a plan. The plan is, I'm going to take my husband to dinner and I'm going to tell him to invite my enemy, Haman. In other words, I'm going to get Haman on home court advantage. I got to get Haman on my territory. She says, okay, it's a banquet. It's a dinner. Okay, bring Haman to dinner and let's go from there. So she invites her husband and her enemy to dinner. Guess who's coming to dinner? So the banquet is prepared. And they drank their wine, verse 6, at the banquet. So this is a big dinner party for her husband. And the king said to Esther, what is your petition? Okay, you brought me here to dinner. You done fed me good. What do you want? For it shall be granted to you. And I mean, I'm going to do it big, because whatever your request, even the half of the kingdom, it will be done. I'm going to take care of you. What did you make this dinner for? Ooh, it's getting tricky now. Verse 7. So Esther replied, my petition and my request is. My petition and my request is, watch this, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and do what I request, may the king and Haman come to the banquet which I have prepared for them tomorrow. Say what? The man just told you he's going to give you half the kingdom. What you want, girl? I studied the Bible in college for 4 years. I studied the Bible for 4 years working on my master's degree, another 4 years working on my doctoral degree. And then I've been preaching all of these years, and I'm still learning new things from this awesome, inexhaustible book, the Word of God. That's why I'm so excited about the Tony Evans Study Bible and its accompanying work, the Tony Evans Bible Commentary. It will take all of this training and this teaching and make it available to you to understand, utilize, and apply God's most powerful Word. She says, King, my request is, can we have dinner tomorrow? Wait a minute. She made the dinner to make her request to save the people from the genocide of Haman. She's got them both sitting there. Dinner is fine. They've been doing their drinking. Everybody's ready to go. He's offered her the kingdom. What do you want? And she says, what I want is for you to come to dinner tomorrow. Something happened between verse 6 and 8 to cause her to change her mind about making her petition. She changes her mind because she doesn't even finish the sentence. She just jumps to, let's do this again tomorrow. So I know your question is, what changed her mind? She pauses and says, come back tomorrow. Something is happening here. Well, Haman is now smelling himself. Because Haman went out, verse 9, glad and pleased of heart. He's saying, whoa. He says, boy, I was invited to eat with the king and his wife. Boy, I'm really rising on the ladder here. The problem is when he goes out, he runs into Mordecai. Verse 9, and Mordecai would not stand up, not respect him. The man is out to kill him. Mordecai's not going to stand up. Haman was filled with anger against Mordecai. So he already doesn't like him. Now he's really ticked off because I didn't come from this party with the king, with the queen. I'm standing before you and you don't recognize who I am and they just invited me to be with them. You don't know who I am. So he is ticked off, but he controls himself. Verse 10, he doesn't let it. He goes home and tells his wife. He says, wife, Zeresh, he says, let me tell you about my day. I am the man. I am the man. Look, I'm rich. We got these 10 sons. He says, verse 11, and the king magnified me and promoted me, and I'm above all the servants. And then guess what, baby? Verse 12, Esther, the queen, had me, no one but me come to be with the king to eat dinner. Oh, yeah, I'm boss. I'm the boss man, girl. I am on it. This is my day. But there is one problem. All this doesn't matter to me because it's Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate. And I can't stand it. I can't take it any longer. So his wife says, look, we got to get rid of Mordecai. You build the gallows and we're going to kill him tomorrow. We're going to kill him. During that night, chapter 6, verse 1, the king could not sleep. This is just not a regular night. This is on a particular night. Insomnia sets in. And so the king needs help to go to sleep. So according to verse number 1, he tells his servant, go get me something boring to read. God is so detailed in his coincidences. He leads the servants to the right book. And he makes them read the right page. And on the page that they read, it was found written, verse 2, what Mordecai had reported concerning Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who were doorkeepers, that they had sought. to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. That goes all the way back to chapter 2 when Mordecai uncovered an assassination plot against the king, and it just happened to be written in the book, in the Chronicles, on the page from the book that he had them read that night, not a night, that night he could not sleep. Okay, I know it's just luck. I know it's just chance. I know it's just something that just kind of happened. I got that. So he's reading the book because of his insomnia. And it just happens that when they hit Mordecai, King said, whoa. You've been reading all these names and all these events, but this guy, Mordecai, he saved my life, right? Yeah, King. Well, tell me, verse 3, how did we honor him? How did we tell him we appreciate him for saving the king's life? Servant said, we didn't do anything for him. What? You see, God's providence is tied to time. Even though the time may go over years. Because this is years. Even though you thought something should happen 5 years ago or 8 years ago, but God is doing more than just you. He's doing a series of things at the same time because his kingdom is bigger than just you. You are not the kingdom. You are a representative in the kingdom to be used by the kingdom for the kingdom, but you're not the only one in the kingdom. And so timing becomes everything. And so now we find ourselves when on the day, because night is now past, on the day Mordecai is supposed to die, he's reading a book with Mordecai's name in it just because he can't sleep on that night. Okay, watch this. The king asks in verse 4, I hear somebody outside. Who's outside in the court? It's early in the morning. Who would be up this early out there? Who's there? Who's in the court? He asks in verse 4. Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace in order to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows which he had prepared for him. King's servant say in verse 5, King, behold, Haman is standing at the door. Let him come in. Tell Haman come in. He my number 2 guy. Let him come in. So Haman came in. And the king said to him, what is to be done for the man who the king desires to honor? Dum 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 dum. What is to be done with the man who the king decides to honor? Now, Haman thinks the king is talking about him. Haman thinks the king is talking about him. He's number 2. He's the number 2 guy in the land. We learned that early in the book. So the king says he wants to honor somebody. So Haman, because he's smelling himself. King want to honor me. Okay. Let me go for the gusto. You want to honor somebody, O king? Let me tell you what you should do. Here's what you should do, O king. Bring out the royal robe. Let him wear the king's robe, which the king has worn. Then bring him the horse on which the king rides. Then put a royal crown even on the horse. Then let the robe and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble princesses, and let them array the man whom the king desires to honor, and lead him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor. And so what happens? The king says, then the king said to Haman, verse 10, take quickly the robes and the horse, as you have said, and do so for Mordecai the Jew. Dum 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 dum. Yeah, what you just said, I like that, hey. I like that, hey, why don't you go and do it for Mordecai the Jew? My Bernie Mac invitation, not that invitation. Just go ahead and do it for Mordecai the Jew. Listen to me, seriously. God is the God of intersections. He connects things that don't look connectable when it's that night. When the timing is hit just right and everything is looking wrong. See, everything is looking wrong. Mordecai's getting ready to die this morning. Esther has had to shift her plan to another dinner. This is not a good day. But she has gone before God. She has acted in faith. And so she's picking up signals that causes her to delay a dinner. She's picking up signals. So Haman, verse 11, took the robe, took the horse, arrayed Mordecai, and led him on horse back through the city square, and proclaimed before him, thus it shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor. Okay, so let's follow Mordecai. This is a man the king want to honor. That's called making your enemies your footstool. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried home mourning with his head covered. Told his wife Zeresh, this is what happened today. This whole thing is reversed. His wife Zeresh says, well, yeah, it looks bad for you, boy. She says, because you've fallen before this Jewish man. You've fallen before this Jewish man. Brothers and sisters, this is 24 hours. So he's walking this Jew around. Okay. Why am I telling you that? Because I'm telling you the providence of God can even address racism. Okay, y'all don't miss me. The providence of God, because we got racism. He wants to genocide all of the Jews because they are Jewish. It was religion, but it was racism. They were Jewish. The providence of God can handle racism. It was the providence of God in 1955 when a woman named Rosa Parks happened to be on the bus, happened to have a man talk to her. She happened to not be willing to get up, which led to a civil rights movement, which changed the laws of the land. God knows how, when he gets the right people with the right faith at the right time in the right place to do the right thing, to flip the script even racially. Okay, it's about 1969, around 1969. One of my professors in college asked me to go to a church with him, to his church around 1969. I went with my professor. I go inside the church, and when I walk out of the church, all hell breaks loose because blacks were not allowed in the church. My professor didn't agree with that. He asked me when I would go. I went. I didn't know all this. So I went, and the church went into convulsions. Because this is, coming off the civil rights era and all that. And they went into convulsions over this black man coming into the church. So they had a meeting about what the church's official position was going to be. And there was a split among the leaders and among the congregation. On the Sunday that I went, they had a guest preacher who was candidating to be their new pastor. I didn't know who was going to be preaching, but he was candidating to be their new pastor. He preached. They had all planned to bring him in. He found out their position in light of me going to the church. He wrote the church and says, I cannot pastor a racist church. So he said, I'm not coming to this church. That split the church even more. From that day forward, the church began to go downhill, 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 until it became a glorified Bible study. 5 years ago, I get a phone call from the chairman of the deacon board. He says, our church has never recovered from that day you came with the professor. And we recognize the reason God has not answered our prayers, the reason God has not rebuilt our church is because of the racism that we did to you way back in 1969. So I have been asked on behalf of the deacons to call you to apologize to you for the racism we did to you back in 1969. And I have calling you, and I'm humbly requesting, would you come preach? Because God knows the right time to turn a situation around. I'm trying to tell you, you don't know who you're dealing with. One of the words people love to use is the word luck, or any of its relatives: happenstance, fate, chance, coincidences. But let me make something clear. You cannot have a sovereign God and have luck. Sovereignty means that God controls everything and that nothing happens either because he caused it or he allowed it. But there's no such thing as chance, because God is in control of the universe, not only the big things, but the little things. And the Bible is full of events that make things look like luck, when actually they were simply circumstances being handled in the hand of God to accomplish his sovereign purposes. Now, we play a part in that. Our choices, our decisions can influence and affect how things work out. But they will always work out to God's glory if we're in his will for our good, and they will accomplish his kingdom purposes. So it's better to cooperate with God so that chance is not chance or